One.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this event as part of Spark. Spark is the British Council's online festival of creativity. We're celebrating connections and inclusion in our communities and offering a platform for cultural exchange between Hong Kong and the UK. Of course, if you could mute yourself, Ivor, then if everyone could mute themselves, then I won't echo. Great, thank you. So Spark Festival began on Wednesday, the 20th of October, and until today, we've had over 30 free online events across arts, music, dance, education, digital culture. I'm not sure what's happening with the echo, sorry. Okay, I'll carry on. Sorry. So this event is a sharing session with the creative team and curators of To.gather. Made in partnership by Rooftop Productions and Sydenham Arts. My name is Timothy Wong. I'm the head of arts and creative industries at the British Council in Hong Kong. Can everyone hear my echo? Or is that just me? Michelle, can you hear my echo? Sorry.
No.
No, is it
Everybody is muted.
Okay.
is it because the
I'm
Facebook
just
live
sorry,
stream?
sorry about this. So before we kick off with this event, there are just some housekeeping rules just to make you aware of. We are recording this event. Please don't record or share on your own devices. We've tried to make every event in Spark as accessible as possible and turned on the transcription function in Microsoft Teams. Instructions on how you can do that have just been listed in the chat. As you may be able to see, there's also a sign language interpreter assigned to this event. They'll be signing Hong Kong Sign Language. Again, you can pin the Hong Kong sign language interpreter to your screen and keep them on your feed. There is a chat function in this event. You're welcome to post questions or feedback for our speakers today. Obviously, please keep that clean and do keep yourself on mute unless you're talking. There's a raise hand function if you have a question or wish to talk. And for safeguarding reasons, we just ask please avoid any private messaging within this call. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over now to Michelle at Rooftop Productions. Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, team, and thank you for joining us on this live stream. I am Michelle. I'm from Rooftop Production. I have black hair, but they're tied in a bun. It's a little bit curly, my hair, and I also have black glasses. Yeah, and I would like to pass the time to my collaborators this time. We are in the same curator team, Ivor and also James, to introduce themselves first, and then I will carry on with introducing the program. So maybe Ivor?
Yeah, sure. Hello, I'm the other half of Rooftop Productions. My name is Ivor Holker. I'm a white guy with long black hair that started to go gray and big round black glasses. Maybe I can pass it over to James to introduce himself.
Yeah, hello. I'm just doing spotlighting and stuff at the same time. I'm James. I'm the managing director of Sydenham Arts. I am a white man with long brown hair, facial hair, and I'm wearing a green velvet t-shirt.
Thank you. Thank you, Ivor and James. And let me talk a little bit about To.gather. To.gather is actually, we made an online exhibition site in an online platform called gather.town. And then we have invited 8 multidisciplinary creative artists aged between 17 to 25, based in Hong Kong and also based in London, to join us in this program. And today, 7 of them are here. And I would really want to pass the time to let them introduce themselves to you. Can we start from the Hong Kong team first? So maybe Arissa?
Hi, everyone. My name is Arissa Yasaratni. I am a kindergarten teacher full-time and a part-time performer. I have medium length, shoulder length black hair. I'm wearing a gray hoodie and I have a pair of black glasses.
And from Hong Kong team, we also have Russell. Russell, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Russell Aranza. I am a Filipino, born and raised in Hong Kong. I'm in my 20s, and I have short black and brown hair, brown eyes, and I do have a conch piercing on my right ear. Yes.
And next, we will have Rose from Hong Kong. Rose, please.
Hello, my name is Rose Delan. I am 18. I have big, round, golden framed glasses, and I have quite a forehead up here. Yes, that's it.
Thank you, Rose. And last, from Hong Kong, we have Gigi.
And I've also got dark brown glasses on as well. And I am a multimedia creative.
Thank you, Princess. And then we'll have Joshua. Joshua, please.
Cool. Hello? Can everyone hear me? Cool. Hi. My name is Joshua Iyakware. I'm an artist who goes by the name Jago Zen. I am a young black male, short black hair. Right now I'm wearing a do-rag. I've got headphones on. Glasses, gold outlining. Wearing a black shirt with blue and red patterns. Yep. So I write, I rap, I act, I do spoken word. I just describe myself as an all-round artist. Yeah, I think that's me. Yeah.
Thank you, Joshua. And last but not least, we have Franklina, the youngest. Hi, Franklin.
Hi everyone, I'm Franklina and I'm 17. I'm an actress and currently a student. I'm a black female and I have short braids with beads at the bottom and I'm wearing a black hoodie.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, the artists, for introducing themselves. When we started this project with Sydenham Arts, we really want to just to provide a platform and for young artists from diverse background to have a chance to create their own work or to express their ideas and thoughts and their arts online and share with audience. And that's why we, you know, get the roll call out, and then we're very happy to get these great artists to work with us this time. We start with some workshops. Yeah, some group workshops. They attend together, and then afterwards we gather some preferences from them, and we also think about it as curators and then put them into different groups. So this time we have 3 different groups. They're working together. The first group is Russell and also Joshua, and they are both musicians, so they're working on something about music. And then the second group, we have Princess, Gigi, and Arissa. Yeah, and they work on something about home. And then the third one, we have Rose, Franklina, and one of the artists who is not here today, Lauren. They work together on some history about UK and Britain. But I think they can talk about their project more later on. We also have some workshops guiding them to do a little bit of creativity, especially on creative writing. Yeah, and today we also have another guest who is Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Lisa is the professor from the Department of Cultural Studies from Lingnan University in Hong Kong. Yeah, and she's going to share some of her thoughts with us today. But now we'll let Lisa introduce herself first. Yes, Lisa.
All right, I guess I'm the oldest here. With 25 plus years of age. I'm a Chinese female. And well, I do wear glasses, but today I am on with my contact lenses because I had my dance classes this morning. So you don't want to look at my hair, which is now in a bundle. I've got like, you know, dark brown and gray hair because I never dyed my hair, and I have a gray t-shirt. I think that's all for the time being.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. So maybe let's get started now. I think like maybe you guys want to know more about what the artist has created on this online platform. And this online platform, gather.town, what is it and how does it look like? So I will now pass the time to group 1 to share about their piece and creative process. I will now invite Russell and also Joshua to talk about their work. Okay. So Russell and Joshua, please.
Hello, Joshua here. Joshua, would you like to guide them first?
How should I start? Yeah, so with the project, me and Russell partnered up. And yeah, so we realized from early that we both we both really liked making music, and that was where our expertise was at. Yeah, we both also act, but I think we knew that music would have been just really nice. It would have been nice to connect in that way, especially that we're from 2 different places in the world, but the music's there to bring us together. So we've created the music. Russell just created both instrumentals that we ended up laying down vocals over. She created the instrumentals quite quickly, and then what the process was, once she had made it, she had like recorded her vocals and sent it to me, and I was able to kind of have conversations with Russell about what she was trying to get across and the message, and she was the way she explained like what the songs meant and what she was trying to say was just so like articulate and was so like impactful. I was like, okay, let me write something. Let me write my verses. Let me do justice to the song she had created. And yeah, it was quite a simple process. Yeah, once I'd written to the different instrumentals and kind of like got the idea of it or whatever, I was just able to send it to Russell, and then she put it together, and the songs came out really good. So in the space here, these are like this is a poem from the sessions that we had on Zoom, many of the Zoom calls we had. We had a stimuli. I forgot what. I think it was a poem called Legendary. I think it was written by.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It was
okay.
called White.
Yeah, yeah. So this one's called White, and then it was created from the stimuli called Legendary by I think a black poet talking. I'm not sure if it was a black poem or a white poet. No, I think it might have been a like ethnic minority who wrote it, and that poem was about the idea of wanting to be white. So then we kind of took that and ran with it and made it apply to us and how we're in societies that where we're the minority and we see the lives of the majority, the people who benefit the most because of their color or their social status. The space was quite nice. Russell um, done really well with the space. I gave a little bit of insight of what we could add, but she kind of took more control of that. Um, so this is like a quote in the space. This comes from one of the songs that we done called One Sky. Um, yeah.
I also do want to talk about the process of making the tracks. Obviously, Joshua is in the UK and I'm in Hong Kong. We couldn't make the song at the same time, so it was more of a waiting game for the both of us. And so when making the tracks, he would WhatsApp me his vocals, and I would engineer his vocals into the instrumentals, and that's when I start to polish everything else. Yeah, and because there are two tracks, I did aim for it to be very different from each other, just to highlight more of the depth of the second track. I did try to add like drums and strings into it, just like the first track. But then at the same time, when I was listening to the second track, it felt like the words lost its meaning because of a lot of instruments into it. So what I did is I scratched everything. I scratched the drums and the strings and the synths, and just kept the piano so that all the words that's been flowing in the track can be heard more, so the audience can absorb what's been said in the track. And I feel like it has so much more to say. We have so much more to say in that one track. And yes, that's how the track's been processed, and yeah, the behind the scenes of it. Yeah.
Cool. So I have a question for you. Like, how do you guys want to carry
it's really just from a place of making sure the song's at its best quality. So I think maybe we do like a bit more brushing up the songs, thinking about how we're trying to release it, under what name, under what I guess label, and etc. etc. I do definitely think we will release it when it's in a good place, when we can agree on yeah, what name, etc. And yeah, I've enjoyed working with Russell, so I will definitely be making more music when the time comes.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Stay tuned on this too for their music. Maybe like one day we'll be really able to see them on bigger platforms like Spotify. Good. So next, I think, well, all the things that you can see in that Gather Town, actually, they created some pictures, also some sound, and some songs they put on SoundCloud, and also they do a lot of writing, and they put it as documents, which is like objects being embedded in Gather Town. And as an audience, you can have a little avatar that you travel around and go to different spaces and really take a look at things by just pressing X to interact with the objects. So this is the fun thing about the platform itself. And now I'm going to introduce the group 2, with the biggest map out of all the places that have been created, the biggest map. So we now will ask Princess, Gigi, and Arissa to talk about their group work. Princess, Gigi, and Arissa, please.
Hiya. So our room was called Long Kong Market, and as you can probably hear or see when you see the text, it's a mixture of Long Kong, of London and Hong Kong. So very creative. But yeah, what we had was an idea to create a short film initially that showed the similarities and differences between Hong Kong and London. And within that, we also had an idea of doing some interviews with some of our friends and families to gain their perspectives of what their environment was to them. And one of our main questions was, what is home to you? And we really wanted to reflect that both in the video and in the map that we created. So as we created this map, we were thinking about the concept of how we would reflect both of these cities. And we thought initially we wanted to have it in an inside space, such as a cafe. However, we felt that that didn't quite reflect what we were speaking about during our meetings. And so we chose to have a market. And a market for us is something very busy, and it has a lot of different things to visit, and that is what Hong Kong and London is. So essentially that is why we landed on the idea of creating a market space. And we wanted to have short videos instead of one long one, because after an edit that had been done, we saw that it wouldn't work for this space. Because a lot of audience members would need to be moving around, and for a virtual space that is very busy, you want to see short videos in short bursts. So we opted for shorter videos with shorter interview clips together. And within that, we also wanted to have, I guess, a bit more of our personal lives in there. So there are examples of us traveling in taxis. There are examples of us on the bus or just standing on a bridge, where you can see these views of both Hong Kong and London. And we wanted to show these similarities by having the videos shot in very similar ways, so that when they were edited together and when I was doing the editing process, I was trying to merge it so that at points you were almost lost as to where you were and what city you were in. And in some cases, we found that some things were so different that we weren't able to reflect that. So, for example, at the food cart where there was a green balloon, it was just a shoveling of oh, I might need help from someone, Arissa or Gigi, to let me know what it was. And
Yeah.
yeah, go on.
Yeah, so if you are from Hong Kong, you would be quite familiar with gai dan zai. Amchundan and sweet potato. Amchundan are acrylic, so the ones that you see on the video right now. And usually during this time of Hong Kong winter, nothing compared to London, but anyway, it's cold for us. These food carts would come out and there would be piping hot sweet potatoes, chestnut, like they'll roast it in a big wok and they'll do it on the spot so you can watch. And we can get quail eggs, and this is like a little treat. So that's the food cart version in Hong Kong.
Yeah, and so for things like that, we really wanted to highlight how unique they are to Hong Kong and to have some of those videos. There is also another one that was shown where it was a solo video. And those things that we don't have in London, we also just wanted to place there because it's nice, I believe, for people from a different city to see what is in another city. So we really wanted to highlight those things. And in our room, we had notice boards where we encouraged audience members to speak about what is home to them and answer a few questions such as, what would you say if someone asked you, where are you really from? Because that is a question that we've been asked a few times. And yeah, so we wanted to just really gain insight from other people. So yeah, I'll wrap up there. And if Gigi and Arissa want to add anything else, feel free to add it now if I've missed anything.
I think you said everything that needed to be said. Thank you so much, Princess.
Thank you, Free. I just have a question for you. You've been like finding so many similarities between Hong Kong and London. What really surprises you in your research?
Oh, I'm going to take a step on this one just to push it off. We had a moment where we were sharing articles, and I read one of the first articles that was sent to us, and it was quite long, but I was persistent to read it just because I wanted to find out more. And I believe it was about the protest, and then it took me to do more research about the relationship between England and Hong Kong and a lot of the things that happened previously. And I was just like, wow, it was great that I was learning it, but at the same time, it was like interesting that we hadn't been taught these things in our education system. And also, I'll just do a little shout out to the history room where they start to develop and speak about those sort of things that were missing in the educational system. So yeah, just those little, well, not little, major details that we missed was what surprised me the most, I believe.
For me, I was our map, like Princess said, revolved around the theme of home and what home means to different people. And I got to interview my little baby cousin who is 8 years old now. And to hear what home means to someone like that, a child, and then interviewing some of my friends who are my age, 25, think hearing what home means to them, those kind of differences in those short answers, they only answered for like somewhere 10 seconds, somewhere 30 seconds. I really felt kind of emotional almost watching the videos, and just the idea of how home is so different. To some people, home is a place. To some people, home is a person. That was really, I wouldn't say shocking, but it was very eye-opening for me.
Gigi?
Gigi,
you
you're
have to
muted.
unmute.
Hi.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you now.
Well, I haven't been to London yet, but then while doing those films and videos and also interviews, I found that it's actually like two places but one world, the feeling. Yeah, and yeah, I was actually really touched by those interviews because I also interviewed my friends and families, and like it is very touching while hearing people saying something that you are really agree with, but then you feel somehow, oh, like you're finding some people have the same point of view with you. Yeah, but then towards different places or things. Yeah, it just, the associations really touched me.
Yeah, true. So, since Princess got such a nice tag for Group 3, and I'll now invite Group 3 to share their piece. They created a room called History Room, which explore or research on the history in UK and Hong Kong, but in quite a different perspective. Now I'll pass it to Franklina and Rose to share their works with us. So Franklina and Rose, please.
Hi. So we devised the history room alongside Lauren, and our aim was to educate people because in conversation we found that we didn't know a lot about each other's countries, and the things that we were finding out were quite sort of extreme and something that should be vocalized. So we took it upon ourselves to sort of research things and come up with a Hong Kong room and a UK room, but also talk about our personal experiences in the countries that we live in. So me and Lauren worked more on the UK room because we're from the UK, and Rose did the Hong Kong room. And in the UK room, we focused on the Black Lives Matter movement because it's personal to us, and Carnival because they're the main experiences that we've had. Yeah, so for example, with the Black Lives Matter section, we spoke about George Floyd and the protests and things that we faced during that time period. And Lauren expanded on Carnival as that's a part of her culture. And Rose, do you want to say what you spoke about in the Hong Kong room?
Yeah. So honestly, when I was doing research for the Hong Kong room, I found out that there was a lot of problems that involved the ethnic minority community, especially during the colonialized era, you know. And I felt like there was a lot of things I wanted to include, but we had limited time and space, so I felt like I wanted to use that as more of a personal subject. So I focused more on the development of Hong Kong by how it looked back in the 1900s and comparing to now, early 2000s.
Yeah. We also made comparisons between the UK and Hong Kong in what we could find. So, for example, daily life and school and just educational sites around London and Hong Kong. And we also made it an aim to talk about diversity because that's one thing that we thought needed more awareness and more education. So we made a video including some of our friends and us and some people who also worked on other rooms, and we made a video on what diversity meant to us as that varies for everyone. Yep. And then at the end we have a game, so we had like a quiz section where everyone could sort of talk about, well, no, answer what they've learned. And yeah.
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 Actually, in each of the rooms, we had little signboards that included facts about Hong Kong and the UK. So these facts are actually something we tested the visitors on to see if they remembered what they learned.
Yeah, and quite a lot of people learned stuff from it. So I guess we did our job. Yes.
Yeah, so I just want to raise one thing. Is like there's one day I heard your discussion. I think it's Franklina and Lauren. Your discussion with Ivor, saying that the history that is being taught in your school, like there are a lot of things being skipped, or especially about the colonial history or about the British Empire or during the colonization era. So is there something that here triggers you to think about how you want to put the history room to, or present the history room to the audience?
Yeah. So personally, for UK schools, we just plainly get taught about British history, but I think it's important for us to be taught about other cultures and histories because of how diverse the UK is. And it's not just, British people that live here. For example, I'm from Ghana, Lauren's from the Caribbean. And so when we was coming up with our rooms, we made it an aim to do it from our perspective. So our version of history. So that's obviously not going to be just British history. And also with not even knowing stuff about Hong Kong, I feel like there's a lot of the stuff, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we're just not taught in school, which is really bad because the people that go to school are the future, and I think they need to be educated on world history.
How about history lessons in Hong Kong then, Rose? Can you tell us, like, is it diverse at all, or in the narrative of the history lesson, does it involve ethnic minorities in it?
So I kind of have a similar opinion to Franklina's, where I feel that the history they teach us is very generalized, and it's purely from one perspective. For example, in Hong Kong's history, we only learn about things from the Chinese perspectives, but not for example, we didn't learn about how other communities acted or behaved during this period of time, just like how Franklina told me about the Windrush scandal. And I had no idea that even happened at all until she told me about it.
Yeah, I think there's such a lack of realism as well in history that's taught, because even with the whole protest section that we made, me and Lauren spoke about the fact that the media completely twisted what actually happened at the protests. And obviously, because that's been on the media and that's what's being spread to the world, that's how people are going to start to view everything when it's really not the case. Yeah, so we made it a point to make sure that we was given plain facts of how it actually happened, as we were actually witnesses at it.
Yeah, thank you for the sharing. And now I think I will lead the topic to Lisa to talk about, especially about presentation in the public, or maybe in our media, or maybe in our creative industry. I'll pass the time to Lisa to talk about, especially in the case of Hong Kong, the presentation of ethnic minority groups in the media and the creative industry, and what she thinks, and maybe you can also share with us like some changes that you might look forward to.
Whoa. Okay. Thanks, Michelle, for the introduction, and I have to say I'm gobsmacked by all your wonderful work done. I was Momo, the curly-haired avatar, who went into. I should have gone to more rooms than I had. But I was totally impressed by all your work, which is really creative and multimedia, and something that I would have dreamt of doing. So congratulations to all the groups. And you touched on all the topics that. I think that finds a lot of room, for a lot of interactions between Hong Kong and the UK artists. And of course I'm sure you explored a lot of common themes about like transport and living, having a home in a city like context. But of course, one of the most, I think, important issues are touching on race, racism, racial politics, identities, and because of that, also belonging. And I think these are definitely, common threats that could be further explored, I guess, and there's a lot of room for, interactions from, both us and the UK artist. And being the, probably the oldest person here, I can talk a little bit about the history, the history that basically interwoven both Britain and Hong Kong, because Hong Kong was a British colony, and that's also where a lot of similarities lie. And talking about history books, I remember when I was studying history, Hong Kong, there was always this line about Hong Kong history, is that Hong Kong was almost like founded in 1841, when the first governor, Pottinger, arrived. Hong Kong was, and I quote, was a barren rock. And that's how Hong Kong was described, okay? As if, Hong Kong's history started on the day the British Army found Hong Kong. All right, so this is something that us as the colonized subjects were subjected to this history that's of course basically created by the colonizers. And as a form of British colony, you can just imagine that we inherited a lot of things from Hong Kong, from Britain, and including I think I remember I saw someone mentioned that the concept of race and ethnicity was basically collapsed. Like there's no distinction between race and ethnicity, and in Hong Kong you can find it especially the case. If you look at government documents, there's a lot of mentioning about ethnicities, and I would argue that by sort of collapsing or interchanging the words between race and ethnicity, they're basically trying to downplay the whole the discussion and the need for the discussion about race. And in fact, I think Hong Kong, the talk about race or even racism, I could say that it's basically lacking. Like, for all these years, we've never, the idea about racism has never been mentioned. I mean, there was, there's there's a racial discrimination bill that was set up in 2008. But then, of course, it's a mentioning of racial discrimination, but then there's nothing about racism. And indeed, if I talk to students, whether or not they think there is racism in Hong Kong, many of my students they say, oh, there's no racism in Hong Kong, but, or I'm not a racist, but, so there's always a but there, which kind of like, okay, sort of like blurs the whole need for, further discussion about racism in Hong Kong. Talking about that, I think, the cultural context or the ethnic context between Hong Kong and England are actually quite different. I mean, if you look at the demographics, I just checked today while I tried to prepare for this presentation. The UK is definitely much more mixed in terms of ethnicities. And in Hong Kong, we can say it's quite a culturally homogenous place with like 92, 93% Chinese. So like so the talk about ethnic minorities come up to like 8% in total. With South Asians, by South Asians, I'm talking about Indians, Pakistanis, and Nepalese, who have had the longest history in Hong Kong. all these three ethnicities added up come up to 1% of Hong Kong population. So I just wanted us to I'm not trying to justify for the lack of such discussion, because it's given this kind of cultural homogeneity, it's a certain kind of difficulty or justification that, oh, we don't have to talk about them because numerically they are a minority. And this itself is actually very highly problematic. I mean, you know, we are brought up to think that, oh, yes, we are all Chinese, but then we come from different provinces in China. And, you know, it's sensitive, you know, to talk about ethnicities, especially now, right, given the context about Xinjiang. And that itself is very problematic, not to mention, you know, this idea about, you know, racism. So that's why I think it also explains, you know, the kind of prospects or the kind of situation that ethnic minorities face in Hong Kong. And you're talking about structural issues here. I mean, like in terms of education, you know, ethnic South Asian minorities are. Why do I always my research focus on South Asians is that they have the longest history among ethnic minorities in Hong Kong. Of course, you know, not talking about the British. You know, the arrival of South Asians are basically, you know, a consequence of British colonization, because they came, they were recruited by the British to come to Hong Kong to join particular professions. For example, police. Remind me if I'm talking too much, okay, Michelle. Police, security guards, you know, people
we have
in
two
the
more
forces.
minutes.
Oh,
we have 2 more minutes.
Okay. So I just wanted to give you, you know, the kind of, you know, a rough idea about, you know, the historical, you know, issues about, you know, South Asian minorities in Hong Kong. Fast forward, you know, because of all this kind of structural, you know, discrimination, then you can actually imagine, you know, what it's like for South Asians prospects to enter into the media industry, because, you know, in the mainstream media itself is very, very highly problematic. You find very few South Asians joining the media industry. And that's also, you know, you can say partially explain, or no, it's not actually not related, but the kind of representation or images of South Asians are actually really, really typecast. You know, whenever they appear in mainstream media and films or, you know, TV programs, they always appear as criminals, never-do-wells. So just kind of up to something. They gang up, you know, and of course, most of the time they play very minor roles in films, in mainstream films. The one single actor, South Asian actor, who made it into mainstream media business is what we called, or he's nicknamed Q Bobo. Who you know, always start as, you know, criminals or comical characters, you know, in TV dramas and films. So we can again, you know, see that there's a lot of parallels about racialization of characters, just like in Hollywood and, you know, mainstream media industries elsewhere. So, I mean, in short, I could say that, you know, the prospects of South Asians in mainstream media industries are actually really low. I mean, most of the young people are forgetting about the mainstream media industry in any case. But in recent years, I'm happy to see that there are more and more young people like yourselves, you know, appearing as YouTubers, as influencers. They make YouTube videos, just like, you know, Arisa or Rose here. I'm sure you'll be, you know, major talents in, you know, on the YouTube. We've got rappers such as Zayn. I strongly recommend you to watch this Pakistani youth in Hong Kong who's called Zayn, who's a rapper, who's a YouTuber, who has got his own fashion label. We've got an Indian YouTuber, Sundalili, in Chinese called Sandak Lei Lei, who make short videos about introducing Indian culture and trying to draw parallels or talking about her own life experience as an Indian-born Hong Konger. So herself of hyphenated identity, try to introduce, the charms of both cultures. So that's another kind of genre. So I can, all in all, I could say that, and it's welcoming to see that, people are really exploring the platforms and social media and actually to make their own voice and to express their own creativity. So I'll stop here. If people, if guys want to ask more, do feel free to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for sharing with us. Yeah, I think Lisa has also mentioned some people who can represent the ethnic minorities in Hong Kong, especially a lot of them are YouTubers or KOLs. And now I would like to invite some artists who have created an individual space on gather.town to share about their own work or their own room, what they're trying to say. And I would also like to, ask the question in advance here is, as artist from ethnic minority background or as a young artist, what do you look forward in your arty role, like in your role to carry on with your creating your own work? What do you really look forward to, or what do you think you need, or what else could change to make it better? This kind of thing. So first of all, I will let Russell to introduce her individual space, and let's see what she has made on gather.town. Thank you, Russell.
So for my personal room, let's enter there first. Let's go. All right. Basically, the layout of my room is a compass because if you don't know my background, I'm a Filipina, born and raised in Hong Kong. And the thing is, my parents are both domestic helpers in Hong Kong. So the topic of domestic helpers really is very close to me, and especially experiencing them growing up, having them take care of so many kids and then me on the side. So yes, this layout of the room is a compass. It signifies my existence and what shaped me. So for example, you can see my Chinese name as well. I included my Chinese name because I just got it when I was in primary. So they made my name for me in Cantonese. And then basically in the north area, you can see where I grew up, my neighborhood. It was a very nice neighborhood, very friendly people around. And then also my schooling, how I struggled with my Cantonese and how I had to learn Cantonese with intonations, with what we call pinyin in Hong Kong. And also you could see if the document is available, you can also see how I wrote Cantonese. And my favorite part of it all is my love for this food called tam zai. If you've seen this video, it's just me eating Sichuan soup-based noodles that I love a lot. I'm a hardcore fan of tam zai. Anyways, that is more of my upbringing and how the local culture in Hong Kong basically shaped me as a person. And then if you go east, I don't really like the term of OFWs or how they're called domestic helpers. So I kind of changed the OFW into Oasis for Warriors because I do think they are more than just domestic helpers. So for this specific section, it was more based on photography exhibition. It was with the help of course, Ivor, and also another OFW that I interviewed with Michelle and Ivor in our previous work. Her name is Lian. She's a Hong Kong Filipino-based photographer in Hong Kong. She taught me how to do photography for like 2 hours. She did a quick tutorial for me, and then on Sundays I would visit Central, which is a very important place for Filipinos because that's the only holiday they have is on a Sunday, and that's where they spend their holidays there. And I do want to show that, you know, domestic helpers do have a life outside of cleaning houses and stuff like that. They do have friends outside. They do gather around this space called Central to pack things for the Philippines. So they do work in Hong Kong for their family back home. So that's one area that I do want to highlight, is that these domestic helpers are more than just that. Yes, and for the South area, I call it ethnic majority. Even though there's just I only included two ethnic minorities in Hong Kong. They're my friends, and they're very interested in giving a little bit of advice on how, or their stories on how they actually survived Hong Kong, because they were not born here. They were raised here. So their story is a little bit different from mine. Their family is all permanent resident in Hong Kong, so they didn't have any fear of being separated as families. So yes, I included the video and a picture of them telling their stories. It's just very short video. Yes. Yeah, and also I also highlighted the fact in this area that Filipinos are not only hindered by, you know, like if you see a Filipino on the street, it's very offensive to think that they're immediately just a helper. Because I experienced that while walking my dog. So yeah, I feel like Filipinos do have, like, they do have hopes too. They have hopes and dreams, and these people, these friends of mine, they achieve so much in life, and they shouldn't only be just, you know, pinned as just a domestic helper. Yes, and finally, I did this to dedicate to my parents. I owe to them my life, my existence in Hong Kong, because they are the ones who fought for my right in the city. Even though it's sad to say that even right now they do not have full access to the city because they're still domestic helpers. So yeah, I just want to leave this section to give my thanks, to give my whole thanks to them. Yeah, so this room basically is more of my whole being, how I grew up, and the topics that still affects me to this day. Yeah. And to answer Michelle's question, what I hope, I really do hope that Philip, like me, I do not have to struggle in auditions or like to get auditions if I don't know Cantonese that well. I think I shouldn't be limited to that, right? And also the fact that I'm tan skinned, I think I shouldn't be limited to any roles as well. I really hope that the industry can accept more people of color. Yeah. So that's my room. And if you have any questions.
Anyone have any question for Russell? Yeah. Ourselves, or, you know. So you ask your friends to give advice.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Sorry,
like, yeah.
You were cut off.
Sorry. Yeah. So you ask your friends to give advice to young Filipinos in Hong Kong. So I was asking if you are going to give a piece of advice maybe not just to young Filipinos who want to become an artist in Hong Kong, or maybe to yourself, what advice will you give?
What advice? I would say do not take any criticism personally. I guess you know, we should accept reality as it is. We can't change our like skin color or our race. So I'd say take it in one ear, out the other, and then just do what you do. Yeah.
Thank you, Russell. Anyone has any follow-up questions for her? You can have a think about on that first. Now I'll introduce Rose to talk about her piece. Rose created a maze in this space, and on the way going to the heart of the maze, you can see a comics drawn by her. And Rose, please.
Yeah, thank you. So if I could talk again about the history room, I mentioned that when I was doing research about Hong Kong's history back when it was being colonized by Britain, I was kind of interested in trying to dive deeper in how EMs felt generally in Hong Kong and what we had to sacrifice and adapt to. So gradually, I came up with the idea to basically make a comic from my perspective of living in Hong Kong. And I came up with the comic because, honestly, I didn't know what else to do but draw, so I decided to draw. And this comic basically talked about how I was born and raised here, and I was quite naive about languages, the community, generally a lot of things. And it didn't really hit me until later in my teens that I realized that there's a lot of racism going on, even though that's kind of obvious, but I felt kind of embarrassed I didn't know anything about it. And even when I was doing research about the EM community back in like during World War, colonized days, post whatever, I didn't know anything about it. And it was actually like something I just felt that should have been taught at schools in Hong Kong, because it did involve World War, it did involve the Chinese community in Hong Kong and things like that. But I don't know why it got brushed aside like that when Hong Kong's population is actually occupied by a lot of ethnic minorities. Then I found it strange that we are not being involved in history at all. So I found it kind of hypocritical that they would brush us as an international city, yet only show the good parts of Hong Kong's history and stuff like that. And I kind of wanted to touch upon the languages here, that it's quite competitive to get into post university, things like that, unless you have really good grades and you have excellent Cantonese. And I found out about this because when I was studying for my public exams, I actually wanted to study arts, but then I found out that even just studying arts would require me to have excellent grades. Like, imagine the fact that I needed to be excellent at maths just to study arts in university. I found it kind of absurd. And it just made me wonder a lot about how different there aren't a lot of opportunities for ethnic minorities if they don't have good Cantonese skills. And yeah, so to not make it too deep or sad or depressing, I made two other comic strips in the other little corner there. It has like carpets there, so maybe you would understand. I wanted to joke around a bit about how some people assume races are supposed to look a certain type of way. For example, I don't know why, but some people would assume being an Indian, you wouldn't look pretty or something. But everyone actually they are pretty in their own ways. They're good looking, they have good points and stuff, but I don't know why people would associate a certain trait with a different race, per se. So that's what I was trying to joke around with. Yeah, I'm not good with words, but that's kind of what I thought about when making this entire room. And to answer Michelle's question, as I mentioned, that there weren't a lot of opportunities for ethnic minorities here. I do hope other organizations would try to take action and actually provide more, maybe like just actual help out there, like communities to actually help us to put more effort in, because that's actually what we really need, help, you know?
Thank you, Rose, for the sharing. So, how's your art life right now? You know, just have an update for our audience here. Do you, yeah, like how your creativity timetable usually in?
So after I took my public exams, I knew there wasn't a chance of studying art here. So I have decided to build an entirely portfolio so I could apply overseas. And the reason why I'm doing this is because, frankly, I don't believe that someone from my background could actually have something to do with the art community here. And it's not to say there isn't artists out there, because we do have Gigi. And generally, I don't think Hong Kong is so big on the art industry here. That's why I'm trying to go overseas. And maybe the fact because I'm trying to go overseas has made me kind of lose motivation to practice Cantonese.
Yeah. True. I think it's a lot are having a similar case in Hong Kong. Yeah, a lot of ethnic minorities are having similar case in Hong Kong. Yeah, it's very difficult to get into the mainstream, and that's why they're thinking about overseas. And because having the thought of going overseas, and that's why, yeah, things will happen like that. So there's a bit of the situation now in Hong Kong or in the city. So next, let's change the place a little bit. We'll have Princess to share with us about her individual room. She created a room called London Bound, and inside you can find some videos, some writings, and also some jokes in it, right, Princess?
Yeah, so the room I created was called London Bound, and I guess it's essentially a compilation of locations that I visit in my daily life or that I go past frequently. And in terms of creating it, I almost set myself a challenge to create it during my travels to work, because during this process I've been freelancing and working at a lot of different places. So when I was on the train or on the bus, it was the only time I could create anything for myself creatively. So yeah, I set that challenge. So I would record all the footage whilst I was traveling. I would also create the music for some of the videos whilst I was traveling and record the vocals as well. And then it was when I was at home that I would set out to create the room. And I wanted this room to essentially be an environment where there was always something at every corner, where you can see what it is like to be in London. And in some places, there aren't videos, but there are interactive elements, such as a tent, for example, where you go inside and you learn some more facts about the homelessness in London. And that was a key part of what I wanted to do, because I see a lot of homeless people as I'm traveling. And there's one announcement on the train that always tells you not to donate to the homeless people and to give it to a charity instead. But then the more research you do, you find out that the charity doesn't actually provide for these people in the way that you think they would with this money. So yeah, I still wanted to highlight how high the homelessness is in London, and also just encourage people to look more into it. And in terms of the room, there's a lot of brickwork. London is surrounded by brickwork. It's very urbanized, and there is very little greenery, which is what I also want to demonstrate in my room. However, as you can see, or I'll describe it now, but there are some patches of plants on top of some of the areas. Um, and that is just representative of how people use their high-rise apartments that they live in to actually create their own greenery and green spaces when they are lacking gardens, when they're living in such densely populated areas. And yeah, I feel as if a lot of people who aren't white are the ones that are living in, or actually not, that's not true. A lot of people who are deemed of working class or lower class are the ones that live in these places, and they don't have access to greenery, so they have to create these environments themselves. So yeah, essentially that's what I wanted to do. And there are some pub elements there as well, because going to the pub is a big thing in England. Like, it's always a question of, oh, when you're going to the pub next. So I wanted to have a quiz that you do, like a pub quiz, just so you learn a bit more about England. And there's also a darts game, because darts is a big pub culture thing. And there's always darts night. And so, yeah, I just wanted to have a bit of fun with it. And yeah, I would say in terms of that as well, I want to have fun in all the work that I do, because as a Black person, I guess you get pushed into the direction of creating work that is fueled by trauma. And that is something that I want to push past, and create work that is fueled by trauma, but in an uplifting way, that it's not necessarily just going direction of this is what's happened. Instead, it's looking at it in a different perspective. And that's what I aim to do in all of my work. And I hope that was reflected in London Bound as well.
Yeah, and as what do you look forward to? What kind of change do you want it to happen, or what do you think your career can develop in what direction?
Well, I would say, because I'm a dark-skinned Black female artist, a non-binary person, it's very difficult to get casting roles in terms of if there's a family scene, for example, it'll be difficult for you to fit in that family unless they're specifically chosen a dark-skinned family. So in terms of that, I have to start creating my own work, and that's what I've gone into training to do. And I graduated from European theatre because I want to devise my own work. I want to learn these skills that if there aren't roles for me, I will make them. And like, no matter what happens, I will essentially be able to make my own work. So I hope in the future more roles do open up, but if worse comes to worse, I know that I've put things in place for myself, that I'll be able to push myself into the industry, and also create spaces for other people that are like myself. Also, because I was in foster care as well, I know that there aren't a lot of theatre artists that were in foster care. So creating that environment and platforms, even if it's in creating short films or producing events, that can help people essentially break into the art and see themselves in an industry that they're not always shown in. That was very long-winded, but yeah.
Yeah, it's really a long way, but I do agree with that. And that's why most of, like, all of the works in Rooftop Productions are devised pieces, and we believe in devising. We can have more narratives in the world, and then yeah, people can have their voices in it. So now, thank you, Princess, so much. Yeah, for your sharing and your thoughts, and carry on doing good work, please. And then we'll have Gigi. Gigi will talk to us about her room. She created a room about a very specific area in Hong Kong called Kwun Tong. Yeah, called Kwun Tong. I know that place, of course. And then she will also share some of the life activities that she planned in there. Thanks, Gigi.
Hi guys. So I created a place. Yeah, and that is about a place called Kwun Tong in Hong Kong, where Kwun Tong is a place I was born and lived in for many years. But then, well, I just finished university, but then I had my primary school study not in Hong Kong, but in a place in China called Shanghai. So I actually am familiar with Kwun Tong, but then not that familiar with Kwun Tong. So I actually want to feel more sense of belonging to Kwun Tong. So there I start observing in Kwun Tong in this project. So some videos are me observing like buildings or things in Kwun Tong that are quite significant in a way. And then step 2 is the people in Hong Kong, in Kwun Tong. And step 3 is I somehow try to involve myself into Kwun Tong by doing some actions. And then step 4, I used light as an extension of myself to involve me into Kwun Tong. Yeah. So I was trying to develop some associations towards me and Kwun Tong. Yeah. So these are about the films that you can interactive with the objects, and about the live drawing session in the middle of the space. Yeah, which I think might be the funnest part of my project. Yeah, it's about me asking audience to draw, to answer some of my questions, like what's your name, how old do you think you are, how long have you been living in the place you are right now, like quickly pick 1 or 10, what did you eat last, can you share one of your favorite songs with me. So these questions are some of them are personal, some of them are associated to audience living areas. Like I think using these questions can let me know how they are, like what's about them. So that's why I ask them these questions, and I draw them a life portrait based on their answers. So like I don't really meet them in person, I don't see their face, but then I draw them a portrait. It's like a friend of soulmate something. Yeah. So the whole area is about people and places and their associations. Yeah. And I really do think the project helps me to feel more sense of belonging to the place I am. Like knowing is loving. Yeah. So I know more, I get to love it more. And also the life portrait drawing is also, I think, is a very fun way to interactive with the audience. Like the gather templates is so fun, like you're playing a game or something. So I was thinking to make it a more fun interactions with audience. So yeah, that's why. And about my artist way, well, I studied visual arts in university, and I do like multimedia arts, like painting, drawing, and then pottery, glass, or design things or videos, films. Yeah. And I really do hope I can keep on doing art projects. Yeah. And I work in my studio right now. I am in my studio right now. Yeah. So hope you guys like what I've done. Thank you.
So Gigi, I would like to ask, how's your experience collaborating with artists from a different ethnic background from you this time?
I think that's very interesting way to collaborate with people because, well, I have the group project with Frances and Risa, and like I said, I have never been to London, so that's not a very familiar place to me, and the people too. So it is a very good way to like knowing people from other places. Like you have open your eyes something, yeah. And then being pen pal is also a very interesting way to collaborate with. Yeah.
Cool. Do you guys have any questions for Gigi here? Yeah. So how about last we will have Arisa. Arisa also created a space called English Only Room and has a live event that draws most of the audience to that room. And now I'll pass the time to Arisa.
Yeah, great. Hi, everyone. So, the room that I created touches on my experience very early on in my acting career. So the room, first of all, aesthetically, it just looks like your regular reading room, kind of like an auditorium slash like black box kind of room where you have the director at the front and like a reading stage. And so, what I had planned for my room was that I was going to do a live reading with my audience. So, on the stage, you'll find that there are two scripts, and the script that I've put on is a something you call Q script. So I just chose Romeo and Juliet because who doesn't love Romeo and Juliet? And so it's a Q script. So all the audience get is the line that comes right before their own line. So they get nothing else about what the whole interaction is about. And I worked with Russell to create a script that basically features a very, very racist director and a very hopeful Filipina artist, Russell. So the idea behind this script and why I wanted to do it was because I find that being pursuing acting as an Asian is a little bit difficult. And pursuing acting as an Asian in Hong Kong is even more difficult because I would say the art scene is not quite as big compared to places like London or America. And so I wanted to draw on my experiences when I was a young actor at this training that I was in before, where the director was very focused on if you are an English speaker, you only do classical theater. And if you don't speak English well, you can only do physical theater. And there's no possible way that you are good at English and good at physical theater. So it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I'm really not. That's really the idea behind the program that I was training under. And Russell also trained in the same theater group as well. And so throughout the live experience, I really wanted to make it uncomfortable for the audience. I wanted them to feel the racism, and I wanted them to be put in a spot where they think, should I say something? Should I speak up for Russell? Should I do something, or should I just sit tight and just read my lines? Which is how I felt a lot while I was training under this theater company. So if I give you a quick example, I have a line in the script that tells Russell, who really wants to play Juliet, but I've given her the role of the nurse. I tell Russell that she can't play Juliet and that I'm helping her by assigning her a role that best fits with her ethnicity. And before that, I compare nurse to the role of a domestic helper. So I had themes and lines like that in the script that was very racist. And every time that we did a debrief, I had to say, first of all, guys, I'm not really racist. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Throughout my room, you can see that I've put pictures of myself in my theater performances, and just a funny little caption. So I wanted to tackle what is somewhat of a more serious topic in a kind of funny and fun way, so that I could also show my personality, because I think sometimes I can't take myself seriously as well. Yeah, so that's my room, more about racism and Asian representation in the acting world. So to answer Michelle's question about what I want to achieve as an artist and how I want my road to look like. So for me, I am 25. I'm turning 26 in December, and as an Asian artist, I want to work towards more Asian representation in theater, in film, as a performer. And I'm slowly working towards that, though I only do performing as a kind of a part-time thing. And what I feel I really need to work on is educating myself. I would say I'm not very educated at all about what I want to achieve. And when I first realized, like, wow, I actually don't know jack about anything, is when I worked with Michelle and Ivor on a documentary theater piece about South Asians in Hong Kong called Testimony. I just realized, so actually I'm a quarter South Asian. I probably should have opened with that. I'm a quarter Sri Lankan, actually, but I am not in touch with my Sri Lankan side at all. And as someone who wants to represent Asians in the performing world, I need to step up and take the time and effort to educate myself. So, yes, I think I've touched everything that I wanted to share. So, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Arissa, for your final shares. So I would like to ask if we have any questions from our audience for our artist here. Anyone have any questions? I think you can raise your hand if you have questions, and then the host can unmute you, or do something. Or if you have anything to share with them after hearing their sharings, and there's something that you want to talk to them. Yeah. Okay, so for now we don't have questions yet, and Franklina and Joshua here would also like to say something, because I've asked the question. It would be great that you can also answer me too on my questions about, like, as a young artist or an artist from a diverse background, what do you look forward to, or what do you look forward to, like changes in the creative industry, or maybe in the world. Yeah. So for you, yeah. So who want to go first?
I can go.
Yes, Franklina, thank you.
So for me, I'm always advocating awareness for a range of stuff. So it's for people with disabilities, for minorities, etc. I just want to see like more diversity in general. Like I would like to see maybe an autistic person actually play an autistic role in a movie rather than them finding someone else who's not autistic to play them, or having a dark-skinned female go for a black woman in a movie rather than, you know, like Zendaya or like Amanda. So just stuff like that for me. Josh?
And Joshua?
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. I think I'm more. I feel like I agree a lot with. I agree with what Franklin is saying. I definitely think if the role is made for you, then it shouldn't be like people who, oh, this actor's popular and they're this color. Let's just have them do that role. Like you should play the role that feels like it's destined for you. And I also feel like I agree with Princess. Like I'm kind of in a stance where just we really like as like ethnic minorities and like artists of ethnic man ethnic minorities and different backgrounds, I think we just gotta make our own content. Like we just gotta make our own content and show them who we are. So it's not even a thing where we feel like we're, oh no, you should no, I should really be in the part. Like they already see our value because they've seen what we've brought to the table. They've seen what we can create. So that's kind of just the way I feel. Like me and my friend, we keep talking about trying to make like a kind of like a production company, and we're always just talking back and forth about ideas for scripts and how we're gonna incorporate our music in it because we both do music, we both like act, and we're trying to write as well. So I think that's really where I'm at. But I definitely think a lot of us strive to be in those high level productions. Always want to we always want to be in like the big films and be able to get all of these different roles in Netflix series and stuff. So, but I think it's a process, and I hope it just becomes easier. Yeah, because when I was younger, there were certain things I didn't have access to that now the younger kids have. So I just hope it gets better for me. It gets better for the young black artists and that are coming up now, and that they're more accepting of us. But we're also creating enough content where we might feel like we're creating our own production companies and our own YouTube channels where we might not even feel like we need them. So I think it's a really, when it comes to music, when it comes to acting, when it comes to film, like all of that, I'm just hoping that more of us from different ethnic backgrounds become self-sufficient.
Thank you, Joshua. I got a message from one of our audience, Maya, and she said that I just want to say thank you for your company. You have been really inspiring and thought-provoking for me. Thank you, Maya, for your message. And yeah, and I really agree with that. What you say, Joshua, is like if the existing content doesn't speak to us or doesn't speak to you, then you create something. You create something that you own. I think that is a very important thing, or at least something that we have found out today. So I hope that later on we can also have more platforms that we're free to create something by ourselves or by you guys. And then, yeah, so to provide the world with more contents, more diversity, more colors. Yeah, cool. Anything that you guys want to round up, you guys want to say, or maybe from our audience? James, Ivor, Lisa?
I can say a little bit. I think yeah, this whole project. I mean, we started doing this project because, particularly in London, we kind of need to recognize, you know, we need the work of kind of the creative industries to reflect the people that live in London. And as I think one of the facts in the room was that I think over 40% of people living in London are from ethnically diverse background, and that certainly isn't represented in the arts sector. And it's something that we all feel quite passionately about in the group here. Certainly all our artists do, and I know Rooftop and lots of people in Hong Kong also feel the same. And I think it's one thing that that Spark Festival has been really great for us to kind of explore those things in this way, and to give us this kind of international platform to share the experiences in different cities, because we can learn from what is happening in other cities. We can learn about, you know, what is going well, what isn't going so well, and I think that's really that's been reflected, I think, in some of the amazing work that the young artists here have presented, and I hope you have seen that through experiencing To.gather. Yeah, I think that's all I need to say to round up.
Well, I can perhaps say just to add up to what you guys have been saying, and which is just wonderful. I think, you know, you've pressed the right, you know, buttons, like, you know, the words like, I mean, creating more content is definitely what is badly needed in Hong Kong. You know, I think Hong Kong suffers from some structural problems. But then, you know, we're just too much reliant on, you know, mainstream capitalist, commercialist media industry. And yeah, it's just very asymmetrical, and which basically kills a lot of voices in Hong Kong, including those of the ethnic minorities. And I guess, you know, rather than relying on access to the mainstream media, we definitely have to make good use of these platforms. And now, you know, like in the post-COVID era, you know, everyone is so used to Zoom, and now this is Microsoft Teams. This is definitely a big space for us to be able to explore. And I think in Hong Kong, yeah, I think there's a lot of nonverbal barriers, which makes life much difficult in some ways, you know, and more difficult in some ways for ethnic minorities here in Hong Kong. And so I think, you know, for us here, for all of us here, I think we need to, first of all, break our own barriers. I think a lot of times we create our own barriers. We feel uncomfortable trying to stick our neck out and raise our voice. I think, first of all, we have to break those barriers. And then I think we have to deal with the things that are that we potentially feel uncomfortable. I agree totally with what Arisa was saying. Sometimes we have to deal with, you know, uncomfortable issues. I mean, here in Hong Kong, there's this stand-up comedian called Vivek Babubani. He made his mark by being a stand-up comedian, but also his jokes are basically about his own life experience as an ethnic minority in Hong Kong, but he did it in a way that actually made fun of the Chinese audience, you know, by making them laugh and laughing at themselves, basically. And so I think, you know, of course, the ethnic or racial minority stand-up comedians are actually, you know, quite popular, you know, elsewhere. But then, you know, these are the topics that, you know, people feel, you know, uncomfortable. But then these are the spaces that they have to, you know, just face, you know, these uncomfortable areas. So and with these platforms, I do agree that you know, thanks to Rooftop and also Sydenham artists who created this event, which provides the first, you know, one of the first pilots. And I really do hope that, you know, guys can, you know, sort of make best use of this platform. And I think we just have to break geographical and cultural and even COVID barriers, you know, and create this international community of practice where we join, you know, voices of different ethnic minorities and reach for more, you know, inclusiveness in societies.
I'd like to add something that I think is very inspiring that Princess and Josh were talking about, that they're able to be self-starting and start their own production company, start their own theatre company and create work that talks about minority issues. But I think for us who are already in the position as theatre directors or have a company, we're still able to do a lot more than is currently being done in terms of just open auditions, giving equal opportunities to different people for casting for our shows. Very basic stuff like this, or colorblind casting, or because this doesn't tend to happen in Hong Kong very much, or even that there is an assumption that everything will have to be in Cantonese and we can't mix languages. But there is a lot more that we could do really to involve people from minorities in our performances, and not just to write the script for the performances ourselves, but by doing devised shows and actually listening to the artists that we engage about their stories and experiences, and let them perform something that relates to that we give them a space as well. So I think we shouldn't just expect them to be self-starting and do all the hard work, that if we're already in a position of some power, that we can at least give some of that to them. And I think, I mean, they do a fantastic job without us, but if you're running a theatre company, please employ these people because they're fantastic. Yeah, that's all I'd like to say. Michelle, do you have anything to add?
Yes, here I would like to thank all of you guys for your hard work and your effort. You really put a lot of your own stories, your effort, your experience into your work, and we can feel that. We can feel that. And thank you so much for collaborating with us, or collaborating with each other in this project, and really work so hard on this project because we really have very limited time. And I really hope that, first of all, we can meet in person one day. Either you guys come to Hong Kong or we go to London. Yeah. And then also another thing is, like, I really look forward if some of you will carry on collaborating with each other, so to keep the linkage between the two cities. And I really look forward to more stories, narrative, and contents from artists with from a diverse background. Yeah. So this is a pilot only. Let's spread things out and everybody do a little bit more, and then maybe one day things could be done and achieved. Yeah. Last but not least, we're going to share Russell and Joshua's song for you, if some of you haven't listened to it in the space. Yeah. So thank you, James. It's a really nice thing. And thank you so much to our audience. Thank you for joining us on Together Online. And also thank you for joining us in tonight's sharing. See you. Thank you. Let's clap for everybody.
Sometimes I don't feel like I'm supposed to be here, but I look up at the night sky and I'm hoping where you are, you're alright. You're alright.
We can make it through the fun and make it through the rain. I can see your pain like looking through the window panes. And even if you're about 1,000 miles away, all you need to do is call me, I'm numbers away. Living in a city where it's diverse, but it's always the minorities that die first. You will know if you saw what happened to Grenfell, watching tens of men on fire like Denzel. Before social media we talk like pen pals, now we judge each other like the dragons dead now. I don't put the pen down, that's how I talk to you, walk with you, cheer you up, no need for an awkward move. We're not under the same roof but under one sky, so we're all looking up and dreaming while we get by. And look up to you hoping that you're just fine, but as my hero said, if God got us, we'll be alright.
We'll be alright, we'll be alright, we'll be alright.
We'll be alright. One scat, one scat, one scat, one scat, one scat, one scat. We'll be alright, we'll be alright, we'll be alright.
Sometimes I don't feel like I'm supposed to be here,
We can make it through the fun and make it through the rain. I can see your pain like looking through the window panes. And even if you're about 1,000 miles away, all you need to do is call me. I'm numbers away.
Numbers away. Call me at +852. Call you at +44. Talk about whatever, so long as it's 4 hours, and then we'll be alright.
We'll be alright.
We'll be alright under one sky.
We'll be alright.
Thank you so much. Yeah, round of applause, clap, yay. So thank you so much. Thank you to our sign language interpreter, and also thank you, Lisa, for joining us tonight. Thank you, British Council, for giving us a chance to put out this platform. It's really, yeah, something that we really want to carry on doing it. And yeah, thank you. Shall we just say goodbye here? Anything from British Council you want to add, team?
I think it's all been said very very eloquently already, but a big thank you from us to all of the creatives and to Rooftop and to Cinema Arts as well for putting this all together. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And we'll see each other very soon again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank